Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name's Claire and you are watching another episode of my cake chemistry series, the one where I talk all about the science behind baking and a whole load of other stuff too. Now, a couple of weeks ago I did a video on the types of sugar and I covered dry crystalline sugars. Today I'm going to talk all about syrups, as promised. Syrups are essentially sugar dissolved in water and they have a water content of around 20%. However, it does vary. Generally, the lower the water percentage, the thicker the syrup is. However, that's not always the case. Sugars also contain what we call saccharides, which are larger in size than sugar molecules, so they easily collide, which makes the syrup thicker. I'm going to talk through some of the syrups that are available today. There are quite a few, so I will mostly cover the main ones that I would use and a lot of other bakers would use, otherwise we may be here all day. First up, we have golden syrup. This is very commonly known in the UK. In fact, I don't even know if it's available in the US, or maybe it's just called something else like corn syrup. But it is used in baking. It's also used for drizzling over ice cream, pancakes. It's a byproduct of the sugarcane refining process and it has a sort of caramel flavour and light golden colour. Here is some that I've got. It's also not that thick. As you can see, it moves quite easily. Next up we have honey. Again, I feel like this is more of a British thing. Could be wrong about that. Is honey available in the US? It probably is. I'm just assuming that most of it is manufactured in the UK. It comes from flower nectar, which is collected by bees and then made into honey. It's stored in honeycombs, which are essentially wax structures, and then beekeepers store these honeycombs in a hive before it's ready to harvest. It's a bit of a process and I'm not going to go into detail about that now because, to be honest, I don't really know what the exact process is. But honey is really nice. I love it. I have got here some Manuka honey. I know, how bougie of me. My mum actually bought this for me for my birthday. Bit random, but she obviously thought I would like it, and I do. I've been using it very, very sparingly because it's so expensive. Like a jar of this will cost around £6-7, but this is top-notch honey and there are a lot of other varieties available. There is both runny and set honey available. I do like a bit of set honey and we mostly use it for spreading on toast or crumpets. Oh my god, it's so good on crumpets. It's butter. And for drizzling. If we do use it in baking, we're only really going to use it very sparingly and for the unique flavour it provides. I can't say that I really use it a lot when I'm baking things or in cakes. It's almost too good to put in a cake. So I would tend to use it instead as a syrup, just to add that little extra flavour. That being said, it can help keep baked goods soft and moist. It also contributes to browning and of course it is very sweet. Another little fact about honey is that it tends to be quite acidic. It has a pH of around 3.5. It doesn't taste acidic, probably because it's so sweet, but because of this it will react with alkali ingredients such as bicarbonate of soda. As I've said, there are many different varieties of honey available and the most common one is sweet clover honey. Next we have maple syrup. Now this is definitely not a British thing. It's produced from the maple tree, mostly in areas of the US and Canada. I have got some here. Again, my mum bought me this for my birthday. She obviously knows that I've got a sweet tooth. As you can see, it's actually quite runny, it's a lot thinner than honey, and again, we're mostly going to use this for drizzling, we won't use it for spreading as such. A lot of people do use it in baking now, particularly as a vegan option, but because it is so expensive, we definitely wouldn't use it as our main sugar in a recipe. It is prized for its very unique flavour, and the reason why it is so expensive is because it takes a huge amount of the maple sap to produce even like a small amount of syrup. The ratio is ridiculous, it's like 40-1 or something. It's boiled over a high heat in large open pans, and it develops its unique flavour from the Maillard reactions that occur. Like honey, there are loads of different varieties available, and generally it's graded by its colour. In the UK, I mean, we don't really have different types. If you go into a supermarket, there's only going to be like maybe 1 or 2, and they're just different because they're different brands. However, in the US, I'm sure there are many more different types available that do vary in colour. The fourth one is Treacle. This is a syrup sold in the UK. I'm really sorry, I don't have any shade today. All I have is an empty tin, which is not really so helpful. It's very thick, it's very sticky, it's quite dark in colour. It's a sugarcane syrup which does have quite a unique flavour and is also slightly bitter. The only time that I really tend to use it is in a rich fruitcake or something like gingerbread. It is very similar to molasses, which I will go on to next. And so we have molasses. This is made by boiling and concentrating sugarcane, and there are many different grades available. It can provide softness and moistness to baked goods, as well as a unique flavour. Believe it or not, it also contains many like vitamins and minerals, including B vitamins, mostly because it's less refined and so more natural, shall we say. Molasses is essentially the US version of black treacle, which we have in the UK. And as I covered in my other video on the types of sugar, it's available in a dry crystalline form, because here is some that I have got. And this is the only way I've ever bought it. I've never bought it in a syrup, but there are both types available. And the next one is glucose syrup. This is a very thick, viscous, clear syrup that is produced by the hydrolysis, aka breakdown of starch. Cornstarch is most commonly used, however we can also use rice, wheat and potato. If it is made from cornstarch, it's known as glucose corn syrup, and I think this is quite common in the US. Starch is essentially a carbohydrate made up of glucose molecules, so it's heated, refined and filtered to produce a syrup. It's not so available in the UK, like you can just go into a supermarket and get it. However, you can order it from places online, and a lot of bakers and pastry chefs do use it. I have some here which I bought. I'm going to show you how thick it is. It actually gives me a lot of anxiety just doing this. Okay, it's actually quite thin today because it's so hot in here, but normally if it's like cold, it's really, really thick. It's completely clear, and it also has no flavour, like it doesn't smell of anything. It's not something I use in baking, however instead I use it in icings and confections such as fudge, because it promotes smoothness and shininess and also prevents crystallization. In fact, if I just read what it says on this tub, glucose syrup for confectionery, pastries and ice cream. It can be used to soften ganaches, enhance the texture of ice cream, ideal for making recipes with pooled sugar, blown sugar, poured sugar, cooked sugar and nougatine. Nougatine? Nougatine. So there we go. And finally we have agave syrup. I believe it's agave rather than agave, but I could be wrong about that. This is a specialty syrup which is produced from the sap of the agave, which is a succulent plant mostly found in Mexico. The syrup contains the polysaccharide inulin, as well as small amounts of glucose and fructose. There are different varieties available, and generally the darker in colour it is and the stronger the flavour. the less processing it's been through. So the ones that are lighter and have a more mild flavour have been more refined. You can also get raw agave nectar, which is produced from organic agave and has not been heated above a certain temperature, so it maintains more of its nutrients. This is generally marketed as a health food product, and you may well have seen it crop up in certain recipes. So those are the main syrups we use in baking. There are of course others available, such as rice syrup, malt syrup, which are produced from starches and wheat. We can also make our own syrup by heating sugar and water together, and we might use that on cakes to keep them moist. But I thought today I would just start by at least covering the main ones. If you would like me to go into more detail about any of these syrups, or maybe one that I haven't even mentioned, please do let me know in the comments below. I really hope you enjoyed this video and it was helpful. I am going to be doing more videos on the topic of sugar in the future, so make sure you stay tuned for those. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.